to you our guest speaker for this morning, Mr. Bruce Turkel. Bruce is Creative Director and CEO of two innovative marketing companies, Turkel, a brand management firm that has 3 units specializing in travel, tourism, and entertainment, financial services, and healthcare. The first manages marketing activities for the Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, the Puerto Rico Tourism Commission, and other tourism bodies. The second handles rebranding activities for JGB Bank and Republic Federal Bank. The healthcare division works with Metropolitan Care, Advantage Care, and Baptist Health, amongst others. A captivating speaker and author, Bruce has published several marketing books, including his latest book, Building Brand Value. He has spoken at MIT, Harvard University, the University of Miami, American Express, Travel and Leisure, and hundreds of other conferences. Bruce has served on the editorial board of How Magazine and the boards of the Miami Ed School, the University of Florida Advertising Council, Our Kids, and the Turkel Resource Foundation. Over the last 25 years, Bruce has worked with American Express, Charles Schwab, Hasbro, Land Chile, Nike, Peabody Hotel Group, Sol Marriott Hotels, Radisson Seven Seas Cruise Line, and Oceania Cruises. He has also helped create some of the world's most compelling brands, including HBO and Discovery Networks. Bruce is being featured in New York Times, Communication Art, Advertising Age, Adweek, USA Today, and Graphic Design USA. And he has appeared on CNN, ABC, CBS, Fox, and NPR. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bruce Turkel.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Buenos dias, bom dia. Welcome to Miami. I am a very rare sight in Miami. I am a true Miami native. I was actually born here and have lived here most of my life. And like you, I travel a lot. In fact, I think my daughter was probably 15 years old before she realized that shampoo came in big bottles. So I spend a lot of time on the road, and wherever I go, people always ask me where I'm from, and I say, Miami. Now, 20 years ago, that wasn't such a popular response. And I would say to people, they'd say, where are you from? I'd say Miami, and they'd say, oh. And it was just one word, it was just oh, but it was the kind of oh that you might use if you met someone and they told you that they hadn't showered in 3 weeks. It was kind of that oh. And now, 20 years later, when I travel, people say to me, where are you from? And I say Miami, and they say, oh. And they're all of a sudden interested. And the question that matters to me, because as you heard, we market Miami, but the question that matters to all of you is why? Why has this happened? Now, clearly, if you've been coming here for a while, you've seen changes. You've seen changes in our infrastructure. You've seen changes in our offerings. But our core competencies, the beach, the weather, those things have not changed at all. What's changed is the consumer's perception of Miami. What's changed is what they think about who we are. What's also changed, by the way, is our RevPAR. And thank you for being a group that I can tell this story and not have to explain what RevPAR is. I truly appreciate that. What's changed is RevPAR, because for the last couple of years, and I think you might have seen it in some of Isaac's slides, what's changed is that Miami's RevPAR has been pretty much the highest in the industry. Our ADR is generally below New York, our occupancy is generally below Oahu, but other than that, when you put them together, our RevPAR has been sensational. And it's because of the brand. It's because we have changed the way people look at this community. Now, the word change is a critical word because a lot of things have changed. Think about what's changed in your business. The way people book has changed completely. The way people communicate, the way you all take notes. If you look around the room, some of you are still using these things called pen and paper, but most of you have some kind of electronic device in front of you. And that gives you obviously the opportunity to capture what I'm saying or what you're thinking, but it also gives you the opportunity to surf the world while I'm speaking. And if I'm not interested, you might be on Facebook, or maybe I am interested and you're posting things on Twitter. My Twitter tag, by the way, is @Bruce Turkel. So if I say something fascinating, please send it out to the world. But it has completely changed the way we understand brands. And it's completely changed the way we talk, because all of a sudden we speak in acronyms. IHG, InterContinental Hotel Group. The letters stand for something. You now know the acronym LOL, laughing out loud. It does not stand for lots of luck, by the way. You know about the acronym IMHO, in my humble opinion. My son was on the computer a couple years ago. I walked up behind him, and all of a sudden he types POS, which stands for parent over shoulder. And I said that, and he was shocked that I knew what he was writing. But there's also an acronym that we've all learned, and some of us use and some of us don't, WTF. Now, before I tell you what WTF stands for, let me tell you what it does not stand for. It used to stand for the Wisconsin Tourism Federation. For obvious reasons, they needed to change their name. It does not stand for the Washington Theater Festival. It does not stand for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If your kids are in the back seat of the car and they're fighting, it does not stand for, whoa, Timmy farted. It stands for what the, well, I can't say that up here, can I? Well, that's what we think it stands for, but it doesn't. And here's what this new technology and this new idea of brands has changed in our world and in our minds. It doesn't stand for what the, although you use it when you see something that you don't understand. You use it when you see something that you don't expect. You use it when you see something that doesn't make sense. You look at something and you say, WTF. You look at those numbers and you say, WTF. You look at the economy and you say, WTF. Here's what it stands for. WTF. Where's the future? Because each time you see one of these things that you don't understand, what we need to understand is that's an opportunity. That's a challenge. That's the world telling us things are changing and we need to change right along with them. What we like to say at our firm is the future started yesterday. If you're thinking about, let me give you a tip, this internet thing, it's going to catch on. It's going to be huge. I see you're laughing, but take my word for it. Internet is going to be huge. The future started yesterday. So when you hear WTF, the question is, what do I do about this? How do I use this information to modify, to adjust, to supplement my brand? Because that's where the value is. That's where the incremental profits are. That's where the future is. By the way, all of the techniques we're going to talk about today work perfect for the company that employs you. Work perfect for the reason you're here, but it also works in your own life. Because nowadays, the micro and the macro have fused. They've become one. As you know, people travel across borders of country to country without even thinking about it. And it's the same way with our social lives and our business lives. We used to say, well, Facebook is social and LinkedIn is business. We all know that's not true anymore. We all know about stories of people who have been fired or hired based on what they thought was in their social life. So this whole WTF concept works in everything that you do. But here's how it works in the hotel business. This is something you guys will understand because you lived it. Back in the day, back before there was any of this kind of communication, my uncle was the general manager at the Sheraton, the Americana, at the Drake. He worked for ITT for years. And he used to tell me the story about the roach in the room letter. And you all know the story. You check into Hotel XYZ, you walk into the bathroom, and there's a cockroach in the bathtub. And what do? Well, you probably call housekeeping, they come and clean it, and then when you get home, you write a letter to management. And you say, dear sir or madam, I was in your hotel, and there was a roach in my room. And you fold the letter up, and you put it in an envelope, remember those, and you lick it, and you put a stamp on it, and you take it to the post office, but it takes you a week because you don't remember, and then you mail it. And then about 3 months later, you get a letter back Dear Sir or Madam, this is the Roach in the Room letter. Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. We're so sorry you were disappointed. Guess what? That was the end of the issue. It was there, we're sorry, okay. Nowadays, you walk into the bathroom, you see the cockroach, you don't even have to reach into your pocket because as you walk into the bathroom, you're already texting. You see it, and what do you write? WTF! There's a roach in my room. I'm at the XYZ hotel. Boom! You hit send. Now, if you're like me, you have, 7,000 people on Twitter, 2,000 people on Facebook, 3,000 people on LinkedIn. I have 13,000 people that follow my blog. All of a sudden, 20,000 people know there was a cockroach in the XYZ hotel. And what most people do is before they write that, they take a picture of it. Because they think that this cockroach is more special than any other cockroach in the world. And they post it on Facebook, and then people like it. Now, what do you like, the cockroach? But instantly, that message is around the world because my wife's cousin lives in Australia. So now people in Australia know that there's a roach in the room in the XYZ hotel halfway around the world. The world has changed. WTF? So the question becomes, what are we going to do about it? Clearly, one of the things we need to do is be monitoring all of our social media networks so we can respond instantly and say, sir, this is the manager of the XYZ hotel. I'm so sorry you had that experience. We will send someone to your room right away, and please accept our apology and blah, blah, blah. You got to nip it in the bud. You have to change the issue. But more importantly, we have to look for the solution to this problem. Because if we don't look for the solution, then we don't have any way of explaining to people why they should do business with us. And the reason why they should do business with us, I have to tell you, comes down to the brand. Because if you look at it honestly, if I can say something without insulting you, all hotel properties are the same. Some are in better locations, some have better amenities, but essentially a hotel property to a consumer is what? A building, a room, a bed, a bathroom, a restaurant. There's a couple other things. Some are nicer, some are not, some are more expensive, some are less expensive. But if you think about travel, and you think about who travels and why people travel, how many people travel to go to a hotel? There might be a few in the world. If someone said to me, you want to go travel and go to see the George Sank? Yes, I do. There are a few hotels that you would travel to. But for the most part, the function of a property has not changed since there was lodging thousands of years ago. But that's not good enough if you want to build your business. So how do you differentiate? How do you change? Well, here's the good news. This is not a new problem. This problem has been around forever. And speaking of problems, can I impose on you to bring the flip chart up, please? If you don't mind. Thank you. Speaking of problems, look at the automobile industry. The automobile was invented in the middle of the 19th century. There's arguments about who invented it. It's either Daimler, who ultimately became one of the partners in Mercedes-Benz. His daughter was Mercedes, by the way. Or it's Rudolf Diesel, a Frenchman, who invented the diesel engine, obviously, and invented cars. And they did that in the middle of the 19th century. However, thank you.
You want to put it on the left, Bruce? We can't see it from here, probably where the light is.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Tell me when. That works? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Y'all can see it? Okay. So, Carlos, thank you very much. So, back in the 19th century, the automobile was invented. But the automobile was not the device we think it is today. The automobile back then was kind of like a jet ski. It was a toy that rich people had to have fun with. And the reason was, first of all, there weren't enough usable roads because there were no cars, so there was no reason to build them. There were no gas stations, so there was no place to get fuel. And if your car broke down 20 miles from town, the only thing they could do was drag it back to the factory and have it fixed. because the parts were not interchangeable. Here was the problem. People were focusing on the content. What is the content? The wheels, the body, the steering wheel, all the different pieces that you needed for the car to be an effective tool. It was the content. But a man came along by the name of Henry Ford. And Henry Ford looked at the automobile in a very different way. Henry Ford understood that to build a big business instead of a boutique business, to build a chain of hotels instead of a boutique hotel, there had to be some major changes to the car. First of all, the parts had to be interchangeable because you had to have a carburetor that could fit any car instead of only one custom carburetor in this car and a custom carburetor in that car. Parts had to be interchangeable. Number two, you had to have service stations. If you didn't have petrol available, how would people be able to refuel their cars? And the only way to do that was for everybody to have a car. Cars needed to become ubiquitous. In order to get cars to become ubiquitous, Henry Ford realized you have to lower the price. That's why you've heard quotes like you can have the Model A or the Model T in any color you wanted, as long as it was black. That was because black paint was the cheapest. They used a special lacquer, and you could make all the cars that way. You could make them cheaper. And Henry Ford created the assembly line and all these other techniques. But the most important thing was that Ford did not worry as much about the content. What he worried about was the context. He worried about the context. Ford concerned himself with the world that the car would exist within, and then modified the business to fit that contextual understanding. So Henry Ford's great quote was, "If I asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said faster horses." Because they didn't know that cars could do the things they were able to do. They used horses. So a faster horse would have solved the problem. But Henry Ford realized that he had to change the context of the automobile. Almost 100 years later, another entrepreneur who built an enormous business just like Henry Ford, who changed the world just like Henry Ford, a man you all know, you've probably read his biography, a guy by the name of Steve Jobs, he said, "It's not my customer's business to know what they want next. It's his job and his company's job to figure it out." Think about the things that Jobs made successful and popular. The computer mouse. He didn't invent it. He didn't create it. It was created by Xerox. They didn't know what to do with it. He saw it and thought that this would be a great input device for the computer. Tablet computing, what we all now call the iPad, that so many of us have and so many of us want. Do you know that a tablet computer was released in the year 2000 by a very smart, very rich, very successful computer entrepreneur by the name of Bill Gates, and it was not successful? Because Bill Gates did not change the context. He changed the content. He created a device, but he didn't build the world. You'll notice that Apple did not release the iPad until the iTunes environment had music and movies and books and gave us a whole world to live within. They thought about context, not content. Because here's the key, and here's the thing to remember as you build your brand and, more importantly, build your business. They don't buy what you do. They buy who you are. They don't buy what you do, they buy who you are. If we agree that most hotels sell the same product, what you understand is if you sell what you do, which is a place to spend the night, all of a sudden you're in a competition of millions of alternatives. But if you sell what you are, in the case of this property, the flagship property, incredible architecture, incredible amenities, incredible location, incredible service, in an incredible city, you have no competition. They don't buy what you do, they buy who you are. And what that says is that what they're buying is the brand. Now, don't get me wrong. The services you provide are critical. If I show up at a property and I'm not happy with the service, if I find something that upsets me, I'm not coming back. Let's think about the restaurant business for a minute. You all have F&B operations. You understand the restaurant business. I grew up in the restaurant business. There's two sides to the business. There's front of the house and there's back of the house. The only thing the customer knows about, of course, is front of the house. How the restaurant looks, the maitre d', the quality of the food, the service, all of that. But there's also back of the house, the ordering, the processing, the dishwashing, all the different staff operations are back of the house. Nobody goes to a restaurant for back of the house. However, if the back of the house doesn't do their job, if the plate comes out and it's got that little gooey, sticky thing with a hair in it, you are never going back to that restaurant. One hair. Now, I know all of you. I can tell by the way you look, the way you dress, successful, intelligent, educated, clean. I'm sure I could walk into anybody's house and find one hair. I know you could in mine just from the dog and the cats. However, in a restaurant, one hair, and you're essentially out of business. But you have never had a friend come up to you and say, you know, you gotta go to this restaurant because they have the cleanest dishes in town. No one's ever said it. Back of the house is critical, but it is not part of the brand message because they don't buy what you do, they buy who you are. So we're working on all these things in our office, using these techniques for our different clients in, as you heard, in the travel and tourism industry, in entertainment and in other places. And it dawns on us that we need some way of objectifying this. Because the problem with talking to business people about brands is that brands are nebulous. They're ethereal. They're about emotion. They're about thoughts. They're about dreams. There's no charts that you can put up with numbers. There's no percentages that you can talk about. And therefore, sometimes they're hard to get people to understand. So we realized what we needed to do was objectify the brand. And so here's what we did. We went through our years of work. We went to our conference room and we laid out all this work. And we looked for, in the campaigns that we had done for Discovery Channel, for Somalia Hotel Group, for Taka and Aviateca Airlines, we looked for what had been successful, what had helped build those brands. And then after we finished with our own work, we went through lots and lots and lots of other work to find out what had helped those brands be successful. And over time, we narrowed down these techniques, these tools, to 7 points. 7 keys to building brand value. It's what I wrote my latest book on, Building Brand Value. And it's the 7 steps to profitable communications. We have some time, so I'm going to take you all through them quickly. We can spend more time later, I can answer questions, but just so you understand them, because if you apply these 7 points to your brand, it will allow you to move from content, we have beds and toilets and televisions, to context. It will show you how to do that. And everything that I heard the speakers talk about, what Alvaro talked about, getting people to come back, getting people to be a member of your priority club, using these 7 steps will help make that a reality. And by the way, I wanted to make sure that people understood them. So each one of them is only 3 words. Now, I understand that in the room we have GMs, we have CPAs, we have MBAs, of course. So you understand 7 points and 3 words. But I have an art degree, so even I can do that math. And I know that 7 points, 3 words equals not that many words. So there's not a lot for you to write down. There's not a lot for you to remember. But if you do, it will make an enormous difference. The first rule, the most important rule, if your cell phone rings, if you look at your text and it says, OMG, WTF, and you have to leave, just wait to get these 3 words. All about them. All about them. Most brands talk about ourselves. Most hotel companies talk about how many properties we have, how many locations we have, how many beds we have, how many phone systems we have, how much of this, how much of that, all numerical data, because there's an investor somewhere that wants to see that. Here's a news flash. Consumers don't care. You know what they care about? Themselves. They care about, if I'm going to that city, that you have a property there, and you're going to treat me right, and I'm going to get what I expect. All about them. I'll tell you a very quick story. You heard in the introduction that we did a project for Nike. Before we did the project, just like we did for you all today, we did some research to understand the company. And here's what we learned. Nike is not a very old company. They've only been around since the early 1970s. They actually sold shoes out of the trunks of their cars. The two guys, Bill Ballard and Phil Knight. But as they grew, they needed to understand how to sell more products. So they did consumer surveys. Consumers at that time did not wear athletic shoes as casual apparel. Now, of course, you could go anywhere and people are wearing Nikes. But back then, it didn't work that way. So they asked consumers, when do you wear athletic shoes? And you know what they said, same thing you'd say today. I wear it when I work out. They'd say, okay, when do you work out? And consumers said, well, my doctor told me I have to get my heart rate to 80% of maximum 3 times a week, 20 minutes a day. You still hear that. And they said, okay, so when do you actually do that? And here's where it got interesting, right? Consumers said, oh, well, I don't work out because. I don't work out because I had to be at the IHG conference very early in the morning. I don't work out because I had to take my kids to school. I don't work out because my car broke down. I don't work out because... Everybody had a reason, right? I don't work out because I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, I'm too rich, I'm too poor, I'm too sick, I'm too healthy. And what did Nike say? You all know it, 3 words. Exactly. Just do it. It was aspirational. It's what we call, another acronym, a GBM, a goosebump moment. You hear just do it and you get goosebumps. They didn't say just do it because we're cheaper, just do it because we're better, just do it because we are available in more locations. They said just do it. You can do it. You can do it. And you can do it. Just do it. But they did another study to find out how many people actually wear Nikes for athletic activity. You want to know what percentage of Nikes sold never, ever see athletic activity? 80%. So here's what we're just doing. We're just sitting on the couch. We've just got our feet up, and we're just sitting in the remote control, right? But we're wearing Nike. And guess what? That's okay with Nike. Because if you're wearing Nikes, it means what? You bought Nikes. You see, the company understands that the brand is all about them. It's all about you. They ran that ad with Michael Jordan. Be like Mike. I thought, I want to be like Mike. I bought Nikes. I'm 6'4". I can't touch the rim on a basketball court. If you remember the movie White Guys Can't Jump? The movie was written about me. But Nike understands that. All about them. Point 2, it's also only 3 words, but I want to tell you a story. We were invited to do a brand overhaul for a very popular, very successful, very well-known resort in the Caribbean. I won't say their name, but we met with all their people. We met with the F&B guys, we met with the housekeeping folks, we met with the marketing people, we met with the owners, we met with the flag, we met with everybody. And everybody told us that the difference in this property is that we have 17,832 linear feet of beachfront. That's it. 17,832 linear feet of beachfront, which is a pretty staggering statistic. But think about the ad. You can already see it. It's the husband and wife. They're having dinner. They're around a table. He's in a tuxedo. His tie is untied. They always are for some reason. She's wearing a gown. He says to her, you know what, honey? This is our 25th anniversary or whatever it was, and you were just as lovely as the day we got married. So why don't we take this bottle of champagne, and you know, you've seen this. You pull it out of the silver bucket. The water is dripping off it, right? Let's take this champagne and go take a walk on the beach. The moon is out. You and I are together. GBM, right? You should be getting goosebumps. And you've seen the picture because every hotel group uses it. The man is walking tuxedo with the jacket over his shoulder, tie undone, and the woman has her gown with her shoes. She's holding her shoes. I don't know about you. I've been married 26 years. If I ever suggested to my wife that we walk on the beach while she's in a gown, I wouldn't make it to 27 years. But it's in every photo. right? So they go walking, they're holding the champagne, the tuxedo, you've seen it all before, and he says to her, you know what, honey, the best thing about being here with you is that the two of us can stroll on 17,382 linear feet of beachfront. Is there something wrong with this picture? The second rule of building a brand, 3 words, hearts, then minds. Hearts, then minds. You need to make an intellectual connection with your consumer, an emotional connection with your consumer before you make an intellectual connection. They don't care what your ADR is until they want to stay in your property. They don't care that you have a location in this city or that city until they've decided that they want to stay with you. And the key to having them stay with you is to make that connection emotional. To make that connection a connection that can overcome the intellectual issues. Price, availability, all of the different things, location, all of those different things. So point 2 is hearts, then minds. Point 3, 3 words. Make it simple. Make it simple. We are all so busy making our marketing complicated because we live in a complicated world. We do all these complicated things, therefore we feel the need to talk about them. We did a survey in our office for destinations because, as you heard, we work for Miami, we do work for Puerto Rico, we work for Peru, for Guatemala, for Springfield, Missouri, the DMAI, the Destination Marketing Association. So we did a destination market analysis. And we went to all the different pubs and we ripped out the pages of ads for all the different towns, cities, and countries. And then we put tape over the logos and we hung them up on the wall. And we asked the people in our office to come in and tell us what communities those were by what they saw without seeing the names. Now, here's the 5 things that every ad has. Every ad showed a water feature. If the community was on the ocean, they showed the ocean. If it was on a river, they showed a river. If it was on a lake, they showed a lake. If not, they showed a pool. If they didn't have a pool, they showed a fountain. But they always showed water. I know why. Because someone did a survey where consumers all said, when I travel, I want to see water. Okay, well, we better put water in the ad. They all had participatory sports. It was either golf, tennis, or skiing. Some showed mountain biking. Some show those longboards now where you stand up on a surfboard, which you have to photograph really quickly before the people fall off. They showed those, but it was always a participatory sport. They always showed shopping, which in my mind is a participatory sport. They always showed outdoor dining, which I believe says 2 things. It says our weather is good, and it says we're safe, because you can eat outdoors. And also I think it says we're different, because at home you eat indoors, so here you can eat outdoors. And the final thing that every ad showed was a geographical reference. So St. Louis might have shown the Arch. If you saw an ad that had the Empire State Building in it, it was an ad for where? Las Vegas. And then you could see an ad with the Eiffel Tower, and it's an ad for Las Vegas, exactly. So even the ads duplicated what were in the other ads. All the ads looked the same. But remember, the third point is make it simple. Now, think about the destinations that you can describe in one word. If I say Paris, you can all describe it. We might use different descriptions, the city of lights, romance, but we all know what we're talking about, right? If I say New York, you might say Broadway, you might say Wall Street, you might say Central Park, but we all know the Big Apple, the big city. We get it. LA, movies, Miami, hip, hot. Las Vegas stands for sin. And not just any sin, really. They've niched it down to adultery, right? What happens here stays here. Why does it stay here? Because you don't want anyone else to know. Although, thanks to social media, everybody knows. Make it simple. I'm going to challenge you. I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to embarrass anybody, but if you put your marketing materials up on the wall with tape over the logos, and you put the competitions, can your people tell your information, your brand, apart from the others. It's a great study, and it's a great way to learn what the simplicity or complicatedness, if that's a word, what that is that you're telling your consumers. So point 3 is make it simple. Point 4, make it quick. Make it quick. Point 5, that was a joke, by the way. They don't get much better than that. Point 5 is make it yours. What do you own that the competition doesn't have? What do you own that makes your company, your brand, special, that stands out? And I'm not talking about a feature per se. I'm not talking about a service, because those are all duplicatable. Remember, they don't buy what you do, they buy who you are. In the case of the Peabody Hotel Group, in fact, it was something to have. It's the ducks. And when we started working with them, they were considering getting rid of the ducks because the ducks were expensive and they're dirty and all that. But the hotel is known because of the ducks. Now, why stay in a property because it has ducks? Think about it. It means they're not going to serve duck in the restaurants, right? They're noisy and they're dirty. But the brand revolves around ducks. Make it yours. What does your brand revolve around? In Germany, there are 5 car companies. There's Opel, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Volkswagen, and Audi. They all manufacture exactly the same thing. They all make cars. And if you look at the Opel Senator, the Mercedes C-Class, the BMW 3 Series, the Volkswagen Passat, and the Audi A4, they are all within 1 inch of each other in height, in length, in width, in wheelbase. They look the same. They drive the same. They have leather interiors. If you're inside one and you're blindfolded, well, and hopefully you're not driving, you can't tell the difference. But the companies need you to tell the difference, just like with properties. Or why buy one instead of the other? So right on the front, between the headlights, they put a logo. And they all use circles. Opel's logo looks like that. It's a lightning bolt. Mercedes-Benz logo, you all know it. It looks like a peace sign. But look at it geometrically for a minute. Opel divides their circle in half. Mercedes-Benz divides their circle in thirds. BMW, the ultimate driving machine, they divide their circle into quarters. Volkswagen, they just took the Mercedes-Benz logo and turned it over, and then they removed the vertical and they replaced it with a W. And then the way I see it, the guys from Audi came along, they didn't know what to do. They said, the heck with it. They just took the other guy's circles. So even the logos are exactly the same. But the cars stand for very different things, don't they? What does a Mercedes-Benz stand for? Just yell it out. Luxury, thank you. Safety, very good. I'm sorry? Status, of course. Thank you. Anything else? Reliability, sure. And there's the one obvious one that no one ever likes to say, they're expensive, right? Okay, so a Mercedes-Benz is reliable, statusy, luxurious, safe, and expensive, yes? We all agree? Okay, BMW, are they statusy? Sure. Are they reliable? Yes. Luxurious? Of course. Safe? They are. And expensive? Well, who has one? Are they expensive? Yeah, pretty much. But BMW stand for one more thing, don't they? What else is a BMW? Speed, exactly. Performance. So a BMW is all these things, but it also is fast. Now, here's where building brands becomes really interesting. This is a true GBM. The assets, the attributes of the brand become the attributes of the consumer. Let me say that again. The attributes of the brand become the attributes of the consumer. So a Mercedes-Benz driver is luxurious, is safety conscious, is affluent, is concerned about status, and is a reliable, dependable, hardworking human being. That's how they can afford the car. And a BMW driver is all those things, but is a little more performance, a little faster, tends to be younger, tends to be hipper, tends to be trendier. The attributes of the brand become the attributes of the consumer. We used to say, you are what you eat. You've all heard that. In branding, we say, you are what you consume. Because the brands you consume become how you tell the world who you are. So point 5 is make it yours. 3 words. Make it yours. BMW owns performance. Now, Mercedes-Benz has the AMG line, they have the McLarens, they have the Black Label, they have all kinds of very high performance cars. But they own different things. BMW owns performance. Make it yours. Now here's an interesting thing to notice. Technology today, everything gets smaller. Phones, remember the first cell phone you ever saw? It was that one that came in a separate box. And you think about it, all the people checking into your hotels today, nobody carries their luggage anymore. The luggage is always on wheels, right? Somebody should have invented that when the phone was that box, so you could walk around and talk on the phone and pull it behind you. But now phones are these itty-bitty, tiny little things that fit in your pocket. Or cameras. Cameras were invented after the Civil War in this country. They were these enormous devices. They used to use the wagons to be the cameras. Now cameras are so small, they fit inside your phone. But one thing keeps getting bigger, and that's the keys to these cars. Do you remember when you could leave a key for someone under the mat? You gotta be my age or older to remember that, because a key was a flat piece of metal. Now it's this big knob of plastic. Why is the key so big? Does anyone know? It's so they can put a logo on it. And it doesn't fit in your pocket. When you go to lunch today, look, well, you guys are all traveling, so maybe not, but when you go to lunch when you're back home, go to a business lunch, and what do you see in front of everybody? We call it their brand stack. Their phone, and then the keys to their expensive cars, and then their Prada sunglasses. They're all stacked up. Because people tell the world who they are by the brands they own. When you go out to your expensive car, and you hit the button on your giant key, what does the phone do? I'm sorry, what does the car do? It beeps, and it flashes the lights, right? It flirts with you. It says, here I am. You own a Jaguar. You're successful. I'm your Lexus. Woohoo! You are what you consume. So the question becomes, are your consumers, the ones who you want to join your priority club, the ones you want to think of you first, are they thinking of you as the way to tell the world who they are? Are they saying to their friends, I went to Miami and I stayed at the InterContinental because that imposes some degree of status on them? And by the way, status doesn't have to be these things. It can also be, I went to a Holiday Inn Express because I'm frugal and I'm smart with my money. It all depends, remember, all about them. It depends what they care about. But is your brand giving them that badge? Back when Miami was the kind of place that people said, oh, it made a very clear statement about the person who traveled there. And it does today. If I'm a hedge fund manager in New York, our biggest market, and I say to you, I'm going away for the weekend, I'm going to Florida, and my friend Carlos says, oh, you're going to Florida, where are you going? If I say I'm going to Orlando, he knows where I'm going, Disney World, who I'm going with, my wife and my kids, and what I'm going to do when I get there, right? Pay a lot of money and run behind my kids trying to get them to slow down. If I say, Carlos says, what are you doing this weekend? And I say, I'm going to Florida. He says, oh, where are you going? And I say, I'm going to Tampa. He'll say, oh, that's nice. He kind of knows where I'm going, Tampa. He kind of knows who I'm going with, probably my family. And he kind of knows what I'm going to do there, no, you don't. But if he says, what are you doing this weekend, Bruce? And I say, I'm going to Florida. And he says, where are you going? And I say, Carlos, I'm going to Miami. What does he say? Oh. He knows where I'm going, South Beach. He knows who I'm going with, not who I'm not going with, right? Definitely my kids, maybe my wife. And he knows what I'm going to do when I get here, although I'm not going to say it in mixed company. Those aren't good or bad, but they're ownable. You know what those things stand for. So point 5 of building a brand is make it yours. Point 6, and this one's easy for you guys, by the way, is all 5 senses. All 5 senses. We think, as marketers, that people make decisions based on 2 senses. We think people make decisions based on what they see and what they hear. How do I know this? Because all advertising is directed at those 2 senses. Television, see and hear. Internet, see and hear. Radio, hear. Billboards, see. Newspapers, see. Magazines, see. And yet, as human beings, we make decisions using all our senses, because on some level, we are still hunter-gatherers on the Great Savannah looking for food and looking for mates, and it's our sense of smell that helps us find. I mean, think about when 2 people meet, when you all met at this conference, you shake hands, or you kiss each other, or you hug each other. Think about when 2 dogs meet. Don't think about it for too long. But what do? They smell each other, because they're determining who's the alpha dog and who's the beta dog, who's in charge. They can tell all that by scent. Now, we don't do that in civil human society. Although, since you're visiting, there is a bar on South Beach, which I can direct you to if you're interested. But we do make decisions based on handshakes. Are they firm? Are they dry? I mean, what happens when you go to reach out to shake someone's hand and they give you a wet fish? Okay. And then as soon as they walk away, what's the first thing you do? We do make decisions using all our senses. So I would challenge you then to look at your brand and look at how you can add sensual, not sexual, but sensual cues to your brand offering. When I walk into a property, do I smell something unique? Do I hear something unique? Do I taste something unique? Is there something there for me, whether it's coffee or cookies, or when I check into a meeting? Here's an interesting thing, because I speak at so many corporate conferences, the people that I speak for are so nice to me, they always upgrade me, always. So what do? I walk into the hotel, they tell me, oh sir, we have an upgrade for you, it's very nice. I go into my suite, I get a 3-bedroom suite. I'm by myself. So I call my wife, I say, honey, I'm in my 1st bedroom. Wait a second, I hold the phone down here and I go, I'm in my 2nd bedroom, hold on. I'm in my 3rd bedroom. It's very nice that they give me a suite, but there's nothing I can do with it. And then I always get an amenity package, and it's almost always a bottle of wine. I can't really open a bottle of wine and drink it by myself, because on that list said you have a drinking problem if. The number 1 is if you drink by yourself, right? No, the number 1 is if you think you don't have a drinking problem. But sometimes I check into a hotel and there's fruit in a bottle of water, or there's hot cookies and milk, or something like that. And you go, oh, isn't that nice? It's so easy for people in the hospitality business to work in all 5 senses. We do a lot of work in financial services. There's not a lot of sensual cues in financial services, right? I want to see where my money is and I want to see how much I made. We work in healthcare. Things smelling in healthcare, not a really good way to build your brand. But in travel and tourism, the way things feel, the way things taste, the way things smell, such an easy way to get into your consumer's home. So all 5 senses is point 6. And then finally, point 7. It's only one word, because I was getting to the end of writing the book, I was getting a little tired, but I repeated it 3 times, so I got 3 words out of it. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Once you figure it out, once you know how to make your brand all about them, emotional, simple, quick, ownable, sensual, you say it over and over and over and over and over again, because when you're starting to get tired of it, your consumer is just starting to notice it. Repeat, repeat, repeat. BMW has been the ultimate driving machine since 1973. The cars have changed, the ads have changed, the brand has stayed the same. Allstate, you're in good hands with Allstate. They've been saying that since before the Second World War. And by the way, you'll notice they didn't say you're in great hands. They said you're in good hands. Why? Because it's emotional. It's believable. I'm in good hands. Everything's okay. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And so I will. The first point is all about them. The second point is hearts, then minds. Point 3 is make it simple. Point 4 is make it quick. Point 5 is make it yours. Point 6, all 5 senses. And point 7, repeat, repeat, repeat. And so I will. Point 1 is no. I'm not going to do that. What I want to do is give you an example. Because I think it's kind of funny to stand up here and tell stories. It's certainly fun for me, and I hope it's fun for you. But I told you that I want this to be tools that you can use. So let me give you an example of how a completely commoditized product differentiated itself by using these points. And to do so, we're going to go back in time. We're going to go back in history to the 1740s. We're going to leave Miami, and we're going to go to Leipzig, Germany. And we're going to meet with a guy by the name of Johann Sebastian Bach. Who's heard of him? Does that mean the rest of you have not? Well, Johann Sebastian Bach, as you probably know, was a composer. He was a very, very successful and popular composer. But that's what his biography says. If you were there during his life, what you would understand is that he was not a successful composer until later on in his life. He still had to make a living, so he was a piano teacher. Except that pianos had not yet been invented. They came along also at the end of his life. He was a spinet teacher. And a lot of the little ditties that he wrote for the spinet, he used later on in his successful compositions. And one of them is a piece of music called Minuet in G. Any of you who have kids who have taken piano lessons, you would know Minuet in G. Who has kids who have taken piano lessons? Raise your hand. Okay, who has kids? Do the rest of you know what kids are? Okay, some people still haven't raised their hand. Were you ever a kid? Minuet in G. It's critical that you know it because it'll illustrate my point. So I had asked, when I had arranged this, I had asked Alvaro and I had asked Carlos to have a baby grand piano for me right in the middle of the room. And because of the service culture here, the answer was, what kind would you like? But there's a problem. I don't play the piano. But then I realized, you know what? Bach didn't play the piano till the end of his life anyways. Bach played a spinet, which is a miniature spinet. So what I did was I brought a miniature spinet. And I'm going to play Minuet in G for you. And it goes like this. Everybody recognize Minuet in G, even the way I play it? Yes? Okay. So now we're going to take another trip. We're going to go from Leipzig, Germany in 1740 to Vicksburg, Mississippi, 1940. We're going from Johann Sebastian Bach to one of my personal heroes, a man by the name of Sonny Boy Williamson. Now, Sonny Boy and Johann Sebastian Bach are about as different as two guys can be. Johann Sebastian Bach was short. Sonny Boy Williamson was 6'6". Johann Sebastian Bach, where you see the pictures, that kind of red velvet suit with the knickers. Sonny Boy had been to England where he played with the Yardbirds and the Animals, and he came back wearing all black wool suits, even in the summer. Sonny Boy wore a bowler cap. Johann Sebastian Bach wore a kind of gray wig. So they were very, very different gentlemen, but they had some similarities. They both had 3 names, Johann Sebastian Bach, Sonny Boy Williamson, and they were both composers. And Sonny Boy wrote lots of music that you know because it's been redone by Eric Clapton, by the Animals, the Yardbirds, Led Zeppelin. And he wrote a piece of music called Peachy Tree. And Peachy Tree sounds like this. Thank you again. Now, here's the question you all are asking. And it's not, what the hell is this guy doing? But it's, what does this have to do with me and my brand? All about them, right? Both of those guys are as different can be. Both of those pieces of music are as different can be. But they both use exactly the same 7 notes. And if you remember the movie, The Sound of Music, you know the notes. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. Thank you, do, but that's an octave. Do, 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 do. It's the same note. It's just 8 steps away. Every piece of Western music ever written uses the same notes. And so every brand ever built uses those same 7 points that we talked about. Every hotel ever built uses the same attributes: beds, telephone, service, all of that. It all comes down to what we said earlier. Understanding the consumer's context, understanding the 7 points to build the brand, and then finally, remembering they don't buy what you do. They buy who you are. Johann Sebastian Bach is not famous because he could play the piano. That was a function. What he did was he gave the world incredible music that changed the way we see beauty. Sonny Boy Williamson is not popular and successful and famous because he could play the harmonica. What he did was express the African American experience in this country in the 40s in music, and he changed the world. Henry Ford did it, Steve Jobs did it, and here's the best part: you can do it too. And to prove that, we've put together a little experiment for you, and so some of you were specially chosen to participate in this little experiment. Now, if I said to you that to prove this, we're going to do something incredibly challenging. How many of you are musicians? How many of you play a musical instrument? Don't worry, I'm not going to make you get up and play it, so don't be embarrassed. 1, 2, 3. Okay, 4, 5. So a percentage of you play a musical instrument. So if I said I can prove this point by the fact that you could all learn to play a musical instrument today, those of you who play instruments, would that be doable? No, probably not, right? So playing a musical instrument. Number 2, if I said, okay, not only can you play a musical instrument, but you can get up in front of your friends and play that instrument, what's the chance of that? Not so good, right? And then if I added point 3, play a musical instrument, get up in front of your friends, and play with the most important, most influential rock band in the history of the world, what's the chance of doing that? Not so good. But if you could do it, then maybe you can do anything else, right? So here's what I'd like you to do. Reach under your table, and those of you who are specially selected, pull out what you find. Leave the gum, leave the labels. Go ahead and unwrap them. Now, I understand that in corporate groups, we don't think it's okay to have fun. So let me check with the big boss. Is it okay for them to have a good time? Is it okay for people to have fun? You heard it here, okay? So no inhibitions now. What I'd like you to do is unwrap the harmonica and hold it up to your mouth. Cover a few holes, it doesn't matter how many, 2 or 3, and inhale. One side should sound like this, and the other side should sound like this. When you find the high side, that side, put that to the right. So you're holding the harmonica so the high side is on the right. Let me turn around. High side is on the right. Okay? Take your left hand, now don't make me come around and correct you on this. Take your left hand and put it like that. Face it out in front of you. Come on! I'm making a fool of myself, so you can too. Take the harmonica and lay it on top of your thumb and lower your hand. Now when you inhale, the low side, side should be next to your hand, okay? If it's not, just flip it over, exactly. Okay, someone over here needs to turn this over. Okay, we all know where the low side is? You always flip it over. No, if you flip it that way, it doesn't play. There you go. Okay. Now, you were specially selected because we did a survey, and all of you who got the harmonica, you guys can read music, right? So what we're going to do is it's a C chord. We're going to go from the C. We're going to play it twice. No? All right. Then let me use the other way of writing music, which looks like this. This is why I learned to play the harmonica. You're going to take the low note, you're going to cover 3 or 4 holes, as I said, not important how many, and I want you to inhale 3 times, which looks like this. Okay, can we do that? It sounds like this. Okay, someone's hitting the high note. I don't want to go around, so someone needs to flip their harmonica over. But let's try it again. It sounds like... Okay, now let's do it together. I know that's difficult. I'm going to count to 3. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and we're going to go bop, bop, bop. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Okay, before we get cocky, let's try it one more time, okay? I'll count to 3 and we're going to go bop, bop, bop. 1, 2, 3. Wow. But you know, like with sales quotas, once you figure it out, they get harder, right? So now, what I want you to do is exhale, inhale, exhale. So that sounds like this. Out. In. Oh, my fault. I didn't write the music for you. I'm sorry. Exhale, inhale, exhale. Now we're going to get rid of it for now. So, perfect. Play that again. Whoever that was. Why don't you do it in your microphone so everyone can hear you? That's good. Perfect. So we're going to do it together, okay? Out, in, out. I'll count to 3, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, bop, 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 okay? 1, 2, 3. All right, let's work on that timing a little bit, shall we? On 3 again. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Okay. Round of applause for our players, please. But, as I said, like quotas, it gets a little bit harder. So now we're going to combine the two parts. I took off one of the notes. What I want you to do is inhale twice, exhale, inhale, exhale. So it'll sound like this. All right? Practice if you need to, and then we'll do it together. Go ahead. You told me they wouldn't be able to do it. All right, let's do it together, shall we? On 3. In, out, 1, 2, 3. Almost. We'll try it one more time. Let's try to be crisp this time, all right? On 3. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Okay, so look what we've done. Could you learn an instrument? Yeah, you did it. Could you play in front of your friends and your peers? Yeah, you did that too. But what was the third part? Do you remember? Can you play with the most influential rock band in history? Okay, now it gets a little bit challenging. All of you with the harmonica, stand up, please. Who would like to come up here and show the group how you're doing? Anybody? There's a staircase over there on the other side. Ah, there you go. Okay, what is your name? Ramon. Welcome, I'm doing great. How you doing? Okay, well, we'll put the music here so you can see it. Would you like me to conduct or you want to do it on your own? Okay, man, do it. Yes, please. Ramon! Now, here's the best part of coming up. You get to pick the next person. Okay. So who would you like to come play a duet with you? Landa, vamos. Oh, no, don't go. You're staying. Close. Who's next? Can't get it.
Let's see. I do finance.
Bill. Come on up, Bill. All right, now we're going to do a trio. Sure. Here, come over here. Don't hide behind the dais. There you go. All right, I'll conduct. You ready? On three. 1, 2, 3. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the IHG All-Stars. So if you guys come out here, you just stand right here. Now, remember the third part of the bargain, to play with the best rock band in history. So Elio, you have the music ready? Okay, 1 minute. We're going to now figure out what you just learned, what you just played, what you just learned how to do, is actually a piece of music that every single one of you knows. All you have to do is change the timing a little bit. And in the song that we're about to hear, it comes around again and again and again. So you all will get to play again and again and again. The only thing to know, to add a little bit of spice, is at the very end, when we get to the very end of the song, you can hold the last note and just do a little wah-wah. So you're going to go. There you go. Okay. Okay. Elio, if you will, tócalo. Here's the only sad part. As we know, John Lennon is no longer with us, and George Harrison is no longer with us. But the good thing is the harmonica part comes around right now to cheer us up again. Turn it up. Bill, we'll start.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bruce. I think that according to the agenda, we have a break. So let's have a break.
Back in here at, sorry, this thing is so loud, at 10:30, please.